Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the Founders Pod. Happy to have you with us. Happy to have you spending a few minutes with us on your day, wherever that is, whenever that is. Excited to bring the story and the guests that we have for this week's edition. My name is Brandon Miner. We're broadcasting from the United Commercial Insurance Studio. I'm here with my co-host, Jordan Hansen.
Hello, Brandon.
How's it going? We are Mattless today.
No Matt.
So the intro is correct.
That's right. We're
Just
gonna
two
update
hosts.
that intro, yeah.
Yeah, just two hosts. So Brandon and Jordan, happy to be with you from studio. Excited to bring the guest today. I'm going to introduce them. Like many of the people we've had on the podcast, serial entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So you know something's wrong with them already. And so you know something's like a little loose. Kind of you got to be careful when you're around them, like many of us. But our guest is involved in a lot of different things. He is a real estate investor, real estate agent, done a bunch of different businesses. Most currently involved in a fintech startup, head of business development. Our guest today is Sean Kress. Sean, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's very true. Be very wary around me.
Got to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, always thinking, probably when you're having a conversation with Sean about like the weather, he's probably thinking of like, man, I could probably buy that company on the corner and like do something. Or
Yeah, either that or maybe thinking about golf if we're talking about weather.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Both two things are super dangerous. Sean here in studio actually has a shirt from the Founders Pod, so limited edition.
That's right.
Okay?
Have to be a guest.
Not a lot of people. Check us out if you're watching us on YouTube. There it is.
Absolutely.
Looks incredible. The Founders Pod. Bring it on.
Yep.
So excited to have Sean do that with us. So anyway, Sean, to get started, what we like to do is have you sort of describe what you're doing now and the role you play in this fintech company and what they do and kind of what your job is and what the company that you work for does.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's super cool. It's been fun to listen to some of the other guests. So when you reached out, I thought, boy, I'm super unqualified to be on this, but I appreciate the invite regardless. But so I'm involved with a company called Club Swan. Club Swan, I guess the easiest and most simple way to explain it is it's a membership-based company, compliance-led, that allows for easy on and off ramp of digital assets into essentially any fiat type currency. So you can be buying crypto, you can be buying any of those type of digital assets, and within a few clicks of a button, you can turn that into spendable cash, and we've got a preloaded debit card that you use.
Really?
Yeah, and what's interesting about it is, my buddy who's, it's his business, he's made it to where he can white label it. They're a private or a principal member of MasterCard, and they've been able to private label this debit card. So if you have a big company, or if you have a big platform, you can essentially use his services to put your own logo on it and drive it to your customers or your, business employees, whatever it might be. So had a lot of success and a lot of interest in it, out of the gate.
So I have like Coinbase.
Yep.
That's where I trade my crypto.
Yeah.
Traditionally. So I would transfer.
So it's exactly like Coinbase.
Okay.
Coinbase would be one of our competitors.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Coinbase would be kind of almost the exact same thing. So with Coinbase, you can sign up, you can get a card, right?
Okay, I've seen them advertise that.
So then through the account, you can, in a couple of minutes, do it and have that card turned into cash. Like we live in the U.S., you have it turned into $1 and then use that card instantaneously.
And I would need to trade my like Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever asset I had, I'd have to trade that to let's see, $1,
Yep.
right?
Through
and then
the
it would
exchange to the currency that you want. Yep.
But I couldn't spend a Bitcoin with that card, right?
No.
Like, okay.
No.
Is there a world where that could happen? Because really, if you go and they're charging in dollars, in theory you could, right? You can see what the Bitcoin, you make the sale and then transfer the money over. Do you think that could happen?
Yeah, there are merchants out there that accept digital currency, as payment, and it's probably bigger outside the U.S. than it is inside the U.S.
I'm saying dollar. Let's take your card over there. I have a card for Club Swan. I have $1,000 in Bitcoin. I go buy $500 worth of stuff. I just swipe my card, and you just say, okay, I see that he wants $500. I'm going to convert that Bitcoin into.
No,
It's a sale.
You've got to do it all previously. So it's almost like carrying different wallets. So imagine this platform has several different wallets. One might be Bitcoin, one would be Ethereum, one could be US dollar, one could be the euro. You could have money in all of these different accounts and then use it based off of that. So if you're using the card, though, you're spending in currency, not digital.
Right.
But if MasterCard or Visa, if they because when you're traveling.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At some point, someone's going to do it where they're doing the exchange for you too.
Right.
Like when you go to, you buy something over in a foreign currency, someone's just doing the conversion from dollar to
What we should do is
cologne or whatever.
the money changing offices in foreign countries. We
Which
should have
I've
like
never been to, but
a
yes.
crypto money changing office.
where they give you the Bitcoin. Like
exactly. Yeah, it's like I'd like
Like
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
You're like, all right, here's like digital,
And-
sprinkling you with Bitcoin.
What's really interesting about it, though, is like even with Coinbase, so they're like our number one competitor. But in order to do that, and the problem that you say, by saying, hey, we'll just take 500 out of crypto because you spent 500, is the timing of the transaction. As you know, crypto, it's super volatile, so it's moving all the time. So in order for you to do that, it's got to be instantaneous. Well, with Coinbase, if I do something like that exchange sometimes can take up to 20 minutes. We've got it down to where it's 90 seconds. It's
20 minutes.
Yeah. You sell the asset within 90 seconds. It's usable currency, ready to go.
I mean, that time's going to keep going down.
Yes, it will. And that's what I'm saying. Eventually, I bet Club Swan gets there too.
Yeah.
Where to the point, even where you can project, okay, we have some percentage, some deviation that we're okay accepting loss if it goes down, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to sell, I can see where you're
I
going.
wonder what the transaction fee would be if you go and buy a car. If you have however much money in Bitcoin, and you go and the car's like 30,000, you swipe your
I
card.
don't know many car dealerships that accept credit card.
Well, yeah, they could.
They
They
could.
could.
But I mean, if we're talking digital asset and we want to go down that, you wouldn't need the card, right? If you had a car dealership that would accept Bitcoin
Yeah, you just transfer
as a payment, just send it just like you would converting it to yourself. You just send it through the blockchain and it'd be done.
Yeah, I just wonder how ubiquitous, how many people are going to accept Bitcoin. And I have Bitcoin as well, and I have crypto, so it's not like I'm not again for it. I just wonder how widespread the adoption will be, and eventually, probably.
I just feel like it's when a big player comes in, right?
Yeah.
Like a MasterCard or Visa, if they facilitate that transaction,
Or what about like Apple Pay
Or Walmart.
Google Pay?
or Google Pay.
If they're saying, okay, we are now going to do all these transactions all in Bitcoin, we accept it fully.
Yeah.
Or Club Swan, the
Or
biggest
Club
one of all.
Absolutely.
Now, so you say Coinbase is your number one competitor, but FTX, right? Recently,
Yeah. FTX. Good
one of the
stuff.
competitors you saw him collapse.
Yeah.
That's right, because they were a big competitor, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, you could dive into this, and if you did, it's a super deep rabbit hole to go down. One of the things with FTX is, and I'm trying to follow the entire lawsuit and everything that is going on, and I think one of his head of business or somewhere just also
Alameda lady, right? Yeah.
yeah, also agreed to plead guilty. One of the things that they weren't doing is they weren't holding the assets. They weren't. They were taking people's money, saying that they had the asset, but they were leveraging
It's
it
a Ponzi.
elsewhere.
It's Ponzi, whatever you want to. I mean, really, it's kind
What
of a
they
form
did,
of a Ponzi.
yes,
Yes, what they
absolutely.
did. Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying these other
Yeah.
exchanges, but yeah, what they were doing is that was the problem behind it. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, and so the biggest thing that I would say is we're compliance led. So
Right.
the business
I wasn't
has
trying to
gone,
imply
yeah,
otherwise. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, the business has gone out there and made sure that they're completely compliant. They've got licenses based out of London as well as CoinEx here in the United States. There's other benefits of Club Swan, which is really cool. So one of the other things with the platform and the membership type services is you also have a 24/7 concierge, which I love. So I've been a member of Club Swan prior to even working with them. My buddy said, "Hey, try this out." And so it was during the time of COVID where Peloton was almost impossible to find, the bikes or anything. They have a thing called a personal shopper. And I was like, oh, this could be interesting. I'll try this personal shopper thing out. So I reached out to the personal shopper. I was like, find me a
This
Peloton
is the
bike.
Club Swan concierge.
Yep,
personal shopper.
concierge. I mean,
Just baked in.
it's basically just a chat group, right? I don't know the person. It's not like they're out, shopping at Dillard's for me or anything like that. But sent him a message, said, hey, I need a Peloton bike. I got to get back in shape. And so they started looking and trying to find one, and they would just send you messages and say, "Hey, I found one in this place. I found one in this place," and they'd give you the prices, and you could just keep telling them like, "Nah, that's not good enough. Find a better deal. Find a better deal." So it was awesome to sit there and have these people going out there and looking for me to get whatever I needed.
So how's Club Swan monetizing? I mean, obviously transaction fee, I'm assuming, right?
Yep, transaction fee. I mean, it's a membership-based company.
Okay,
so like
you pay
anything else. Yeah, so you buy a subscription. Just like, in order for you to get onto the platform, we have different tier levels, and every different tier level comes with a suite of benefits. But, it's just a membership type base, so a monthly recurring fee, and then that's how we make money.
Got it. I see. Yeah, that's different. That's a little different than other exchanges, right? Where they're purely transaction fee, but they're not coming with these other benefits. Like
exactly. Yeah, and we're trying to separate ourselves from that.
Interesting.
And do that. I mean, there's I could get into it real deep. I mean, I'm loving. I mean, just we've got another thing on that same personal shopper thing. There's like discounts you can get at different retailers. So I can go on there and get a $100 Amazon card for $80.
Yeah.
If I'm only paying $50 a month in a membership fee, but I can save $20 or 20% on an Amazon purchase.
That's easy arbitrage right there.
I don't know if your doorstep looks anything like mine, but I swear Amazon shows up every day. And so you start saving $20 per delivery, it seems like. It helps significantly.
Note to self, sign up for Club Swan prior to Christmas to get the,
That's right.
the hottest toy that's like always out, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I felt like Amazon during the holidays, like the delivery driver might have been just an extended member of the family.
Yeah. It's just like, "Hey guys, how you doing?"
Yeah, I mean, first name basis.
Yeah. When he's like, "Oh, hey Sean, I forgot," and you're just like, "I'll just bring it next time you come by."
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah, tomorrow or later today.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, you forgot your sweater.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you want to come in for some hot chocolate?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into history and everything, but I have one final question. So you're in the crypto space right now. When was your first Bitcoin purchased, or cryptocurrency? At what date was it first purchased?
Gosh, first crypto purchase. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't like 2012 when somebody told me.
I wanted someone to say that.
2012 when they're like, "Oh, I'm going to buy this crypto for Bitcoin for $1 or $2 or whatever."
I know somebody that I told you that story, right?
Yeah.
He did a college essay on Bitcoin, and we were all like, "You're a loser,"
Right.
and he's like, "It's under $1.
Right.
You should just buy some," and he did really well. Right. Anyway,
but I'm I guess the plus side is I probably would be the guy that they write the article about where he traded like 13 Bitcoin for that large pizza.
That's right. No, I was
or whatever.
That
yeah,
one.
right.
Yeah.
He bought it and he's just like, "Oh yeah, I can buy a large pizza with Bitcoin."
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Gave up like 13
Like
or whatever it was.
Like $1 million+ for that pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
Pizza now,
I know I don't remember
That's
what
funny.
time of year, but that article comes out like every year.
Or the
like,
guy that
okay.
forgot the passcode to log in.
Yeah.
And there's like 180 million somewhere.
Yeah.
You're like, "Hey, you paid like $200 million for your large pepperoni back in the day."
Yeah.
That'd be bad.
Cold.
Well, you
and,
didn't tell us. When was the first purchase?
2018, I think.
Okay.
I was actually on a business trip with the guy that
They
is
kind of
now-
convinced you?
Yeah, and it's really funny. So it was actually a golf trip. We went on this trip, and I like to tell everyone. So, and I won't say who all was with us, but we had a fivesome. We were out on a course called the Madison Club in California, super private, and this caddy kept telling us, "Oh, that's Phil Knight's house, and that's Tiger Woods' house, and that's Phil Mickelson." I guess one of the things to be a member of this course, you've got to own property, around the course. And I was sitting there looking at the group that we were playing with, and I'm like, wow, I think the net worth of this fivesome's got to be like $4.5 billion.
Oh.
And I was probably bringing the number down.
You're hurting the
I was just like,
huh?
"God, I think if I left it and it was just a foursome, it might be $5 billion." No,
Yeah.
yeah, it was. But yeah, so they were talking crypto. It was having a surge. It was sub 20,000 at the time, and they were all involved in trying to catch that wave and ride it out. And that's when this guy was telling a little bit more about the company and about things that he was doing. And I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna jump into that space a little bit.
Yeah.
Dip my toe.
There's a
I was
ton
doing other things at the time, but thought, yeah, you know what, why not?
Yeah.
There's a little bit there, here and there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ton of fear of missing out. going
Oh yeah,
on at
huge
the time.
FOMO there. Especially when
Absolutely.
you see up to like 60, you're like, oh baby.
Oh gosh,
How many people buy a 60? Yeah.
a lot.
I definitely bought some
I
at
bought it 60.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
bought some at 60.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say it.
Yeah.
I bought more than I should have at 60.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Haven't recovered that yet.
Yeah.
So
What's it at?
I don't know what's that. Do you want
23.
the 23? Okay.
Yeah,
So
floating
it's-
right at 23.
It was at a 16 for a little bit, so we're
Yeah.
up a little bit.
You know what I should do? We should all create a class action because Google sees me buy stuff, and they'll send me reports like Bitcoin's going to go to like 2 million,
Oh, you're gonna say
and it's like that's false.
that's investing
like,
advice right there.
Exactly, that's investing advice. So you're just like keep pumping me full of hope,
Getting me pumped. Yeah.
and I'm like reading. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. And so I'm like, okay, keep going.
You try it.
I love just jumping on Twitter and looking and you can pick 10 different people to follow and from either side of the spectrum.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
they're all like, "Oh, here comes the bull run! Here it
Yeah.
comes!" And then the next, 2 minutes later, everyone's like, "It's over!
It's
It's
kind of what
crashing."
you want. You can find whatever
Yeah,
you want. Like
exactly.
you find some confirmation.
It is
bias or
interesting that like people are just like Warren Buffett. He's like, you could offer me every single crypto asset, and I wouldn't pay $1 for it.
whatever. Right.
And you're like, oh, really? Is that just because he's like an older guy shaking his
I
hand
think
at
it's
the
more.
fist, or shaking his fist at the
didn't he
sky?
say it's just because he only invests in stuff he knows, and he says I don't understand this. I'm not going to invest.
It's
in
just interesting that like people are so
it.
Yeah.
for and against it.
You just wish people would take that and understand. Can we apply that to everything?
Yeah.
When they get so
Yeah.
involved in
Right.
politics or whatever, it's
Sure.
like, no. Just look, it's both sides of the spectrum here.
Right. Okay, that was deep.
Yeah.
Deep.
That was deep. We made it. We
Hope
made
our
it through
mothers
the other side.
appreciate that. They
Yeah.
can pick up some Bitcoin on Club Swan if they want.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
Mom. Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Reach
Hey,
out to me. We'll
you
get
know,
you signed up.
my mom would love a personal shopper.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. She's like, I don't know what crypto is, but I like that.
But
personal shopper.
the personal shopper guy, my mom on a crypto would be hilarious. She'd be yelling at the phone like, "What are you trying to charge me?" Sorry, Mom, if you're listening to
The
this.
best thing would be trying to tell them, have you ever seen or used like a wallet to wallet transfer?
Okay.
And you get like you get your custom code,
Uh-huh.
which looks like it's 180 characters
yeah,
long,
yeah.
just random. Could you imagine asking somebody of that generation, okay, send me your
No,
wallet
that's
code?
No.
Yeah.
The fact is, my mom will call me and again, love my mom, obviously.
Obviously.
We all do.
It's a given.
And
yeah.
we say this
We all
Sean,
love your
because
mom.
our moms are like our number one listeners, right?
Absolutely. My
Um,
mom will be hopefully on this episode.
you go.
Love
Sean's
you,
mom.
Hopefully
So-
you're listening.
She'll call and be like, "Hey, I don't know my password to this thing," and I'll be like, "Okay, I'm talking her through it, right?" And then I try to be patient, and I'm trying to be patient, like talking and talking. And we're getting more and more confused, and then I'm like, "Whatever, I'm just gonna come over. Like I'm driving over there wherever I'm at."
Well, you're living there
Sit
now,
down.
right?
Well, I live there now.
Yeah. You don't have to drive
I'm
far.
coming over there. I'm walking down the hall. Like, why'd you call me? I'm just down the hall. Yeah, okay, well, that's going to be us sometime anyway.
Yes.
Right? Like, our kids are going to
Yeah.
be like, I can't even call my dad.
Dude, I'm
and talk to
dreading.
him.
Right now, it's not there yet. I'm still.
That's one of my favorite commercials on TV right now, where they're like, "Are you turning into your parents?"
Oh, the progressive
Or-
ones?
Yeah, the progressive.
They're
where-
hilarious.
Where he's
They're so
like,
good.
oh wow, good job with the carts there, Timmy. Is the
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
pulling the carts into
Well,
the
they're
grocery
standing,
store?
They're standing in line. The guy's in the back. He's like, hey, can we tighten this up? The line's a mess over here.
Yeah. Anytime I'm over at my parents' house, they're like, being involved in the technology space for as long as I have been. It's like, hey, will you take a look at this? And
Yeah, IT admin right here.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
part-time IT admin and.
Yeah.
One of the...
Sorry, Mom, I've got to say this.
Yeah.
Just last week, she was over at the house, my mom and dad, and we were talking, and I told them, "Oh, you can watch this series. It's on Apple TV. Whatever
Streaming,
Peacock or whatever the streaming service was." And she looked at me and said, "Apple TV?"
You're like, yeah.
And she says, "I've got a smart TV." And I was like, "Oh no."
You're not getting it.
Yeah, sorry. Oh no.
I'm like, let me just
I'm
go.
sure I bet she got online that night and went to Apple and was shopping for TVs.
Wait, why don't I have Apple?
What?
And the thing is,
I
they
can't.
have but the thing is, they have an Apple TV. There's a piece of hardware. Remember, it's that.
Yeah,
little,
that's
Yeah,
right.
that's what I'm saying. It's Apple TV.
yeah, but you're thinking the subscription.
No. I think she's thinking like
Yeah,
I got to
a
go
TV.
buy like a
Right,
60-inch
right.
Apple TV
Yeah.
or whatever it is, and she probably pulled up that site or that thing and was like, "Wow, this.
How do you watch
How are you gonna watch it on this?"
She's like, that screen's so small.
I'm just kidding, Mom. I love you.
Yeah.
She's the best.
Mrs. Kress, Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Well, the one of the better progressive commercials when they end and they're like, okay, who wants to open up a PDF? And all the people are like, no. Like, it's like how to, don't turn into your parents.
Right.
Sorry.
Are you from Idaho?
I
Or
am.
Where your parents live?
Chubbuck. Yeah.
Oh, Chubbuck.
Yeah.
Eastern
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, born and raised over in Chubbuck, Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so don't listen too intently to some of our episodes because we've kind of thrown some shade at Pocatello, Chubbuck area.
Hey, I live here in the Treasure Valley now, so we can throw shade.
How do you feel?
all
I
we
mean,
want.
come on. It's fine.
There was a time. There's a time.
Still is.
Okay.
Still is that time.
When Pocatello is kind of the armpit of the state.
They say
So what
that.
would have
They
changed?
say
What would
that.
have changed? You're saying they're basing it on the terrain around it, aren't
Well,
they?
yeah. So it's like geographically speaking, there wasn't a ton of amazing features. Okay, not that they're okay. Love Pocatello,
Because Idaho
but
Falls
also
is pretty. And it's not
Idaho
that far
Falls
from
pretty. I just think what it was like a growing city that was trying to gain steam, that was trying to get there, but it was like pieced together, and there wasn't a ton of it. Like there wasn't a lot of attraction to it.
Yes.
I think is what the perception was.
Probably. Yeah, it's fair. I think the biggest thing is it just depends on what you like. So I've just recently been getting into hunting.
Okay.
Friend in the neighborhood, started taking me hunting, said, hey, you got to do this. And growing up in Eastern Idaho, that's what everyone does,
Yeah,
right?
right.
I just never did. So I would say that side of the state probably has maybe an edge over some of the other areas just from everything around it. Right?
Yeah.
My
all the
wife,
outdoor stuff.
my wife went to Idaho State, loved it
Did she? She went.
She
before
went
went
to for a
she
year.
transferred to Boise State. Why?
for a year.
Oh, okay. Well,
Did she grow up over there?
No,
Jerome.
she's from Jerome,
So
which
kind of mid. Yeah.
probably worse. I was just saying Jerome probably worse.
Yeah, I don't think they can talk.
No, they can't. Like that Jerome Burley, it's a tough stretch to get through.
Yes.
And and you go there the like January through February, and it's like 7 degrees, windy. And you're like, why did people stay here?
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry. I love that. I love it. I love that area. I love Pocatello. I love Jerome. Always have.
Yeah,
Always will.
Pocatello is great. I mean, it's funny. My wife's from Blackfoot, so she grew up in Eastern Idaho as well. We lived there in Pocatello and Idaho Falls for a long time, and when we left Idaho Falls, we moved to Lehigh, Utah.
Okay.
And I laughed because I was like, man, I think I found the one place on earth that might be windier than
Lehigh.
Idaho
Really?
Falls.
Lehigh's
Really?
really windy?
Lehigh.
Really?
And the whatever that paragliding park is at
Yeah,
the point of the
that kinda
mountain,
hits
that should have been my first clue as
'Cause
to
it's
how
right
windy
there.
it
yeah.
is.
If there's a
Yeah, if there's a paragliding park
Yeah.
People
in your backyard, it's gonna be windy. It was
okay.
funny. There was a Facebook group where, like, every garbage day, the person at the bottom of the cul-de-sac,
Oh,
they'd be like, "Oh, we've got 12 garbage cans, so if you need one, come get one."
yeah.
They just get emptied and all blow to his house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived at the end of a cul-de-sac in the last house, and like they were building homes at the time, and we would get boxes of like
recycle day.
Yeah.
The lids are flipping open and
just tons, like right on the doorstep.
yeah.
And you're like, do people not like me here, or like they're just dumping their trash
That's right.
all over the
That's
doorstep?
right. That's what they're doing.
My sister-in-law lived in Lehigh, and we drive by the high school, and it's like Lehigh High,
Right.
which I always thought was a problem for me, but not for them.
Confusing. It worked out okay.
Yeah.
So, what did your parents do when you were growing up?
My mom is a retired school teacher. So she taught, in fact, she taught my wife in second grade,
Whoa.
if you can believe that,
Yeah.
which is really random.
So this was an arranged marriage. Is that
No. But what's funny is when she heard that I was dating a girl from Blackfoot, she heard the last name and she pulled me aside and she says, "You do anything to damage my reputation in that community." And I was like, "Mom, geez."
Well, you should have said, like, Mom, pull up the grades. Pull up her
How'd she do?
transcript. Like, I just
Yeah.
need to know.
I need to know how she did in
Second
crafts
grade.
in second grade.
That's right.
Did she pull any lights?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Did she color in the lines?
This is important.
Yeah,
This really
important
weighs in.
stuff.
So they lived in Blackfoot for a bit.
She taught in Blackfoot.
Yep. Yeah, she taught in
Or she-
Blackfoot. I
so
grew
she-
up in Pocatello,
she
but my
grew up
mom
in-
would
yeah.
commute every day.
Oh,
There was
okay.
another lady in the neighborhood. They both taught at the same elementary school, and they would go early in the morning. So she was a school teacher, for my everything that I can remember. And then my dad was an entrepreneur. Started as an entrepreneur and then moved into insurance sales. So did with Beneficial Life for a long time, selling life insurance with Beneficial Life. And then when Beneficial Life decided that they were out of the game and decided not to move forward, some guys over here in Boise and then Eastern Idaho created a company called Allegis Financial Partners. And he started doing it with them.
Doing the life insurance side?
Yeah, doing the life insurance side. He got there towards the end of his career. He was doing some of the, investing and, planning
Financial
and
stuff,
financial planning.
Yeah, it
for
overlaps
people.
with financial advisement
Yeah.
advisor stuff
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got, I think, dedicated people, for each of that side of their business that, my dad was just more in the life insurance. So whenever he had somebody that was doing the other stuff, he'd grab his buddy over here in Boise and they'd tackle it together.
An entrepreneur doing insurance stuff?
Well,
don't trust them.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't trust those guys.
Yeah.
That's
I
funny.
guess, probably.
Yeah. I just said United Commercial Insurance.
Right.
Anyway. Well, life insurance is so different, though. So what did he do before? Did he bounce around and do different jobs? I mean, what was your experience there?
No. So, I mean, it was kind of just one into the other. So he was an entrepreneur, had a mobile home park back in the day. So mobile homes used to be a big deal.
So I've heard they'd make a lot of money, those things.
I was too young to remember. I just remember it was cool because I could go to my dad's office and there were 10 houses you could play in. You're like, oh, this is awesome. You can run through the gravel lot. You can go hide in another house. And so hide and go seek with my brother and sister at the time was epic.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was
multiple homes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Running in and out of them, those movable steps. Some of them weren't always parked up next to the house. You had to kind of jump into the house. But yeah, so he was doing it was called Intermountain Mobile Home. I remember it was right there on Yellowstone, the main road in Pocatello. He had his own lot, was doing well, and then I think it pretty much now mind you, I was young when it all happened, but overnight, pretty much that's when manufactured home industry kind of boomed, and people that had mobile homes, it was kind of it was a dead industry.
Interesting.
And so almost overnight, it was like revenue shut off. The business started to tank. It was a tough time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The nice part about that is that clearing out mobile homes probably isn't too bad, and there's value in the land.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what it was like in the, whatever 70s, 80s, 90s that happened or something.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. It was probably, I'm trying to think, I was in elementary school, so probably late 80s, early 90s.
Anytime your main form of income drops off from one month to the next, it's got to be stressful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Gotta
Yeah.
be stressful.
Yep.
Yeah, I can remember it was tough, and which is kind of part of how my story goes is that experience that my parents had being entrepreneurs at a early in life with young kids and a young family, and having it go from everything's great to what do we do now? And so at that point in time, my dad was like, hey, I'm good at sales. Tried a couple of different sales jobs and thought, this isn't right and this isn't right, and didn't love it. But it was just for a short stint, and I only remember those for maybe a month or two. I think he was just trying to find out what he was going to do next, and then settled in with the life insurance, and then just kind of took off.
I think the hard part with getting into insurance I don't know if it was a later age for him or not, is you start from scratch.
Yeah.
You're building from zero.
Yep.
You can do really well, but it just takes a long time to build that book of business.
It does. The value of insurance and being insurance is the recurring revenue over time.
Yeah.
It's not the front end.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And he always said it too, is it was tough because, your network are the people that are usually your age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you don't have money because you're young, chances are they don't have money either. And
Right,
so life
sure.
insurance isn't, their priority at that time. But yeah, he he's a heck of a salesman. I can remember doing odd jobs. I remember, with my mom having summers off, one year they decided, it'd be fun to do a fireworks stand. My mom's got summers off, and so they, got a fireworks stand there in Blackfoot, and dude, that was a riot. I mean, you talk
Was it
about
good? It was good fun.
Oh, it was a ton of fun. I mean,
Yeah.
just think about it. If your parents own
You're
a
a kid, you're
fireworks
like-
stand and you're like a 13-year-old
You're
menace.
the coolest person
Like, this
ever,
is
yeah.
awesome.
That's right.
You're just like, what fireworks can I mix together?
Well, that was probably back in the day when they had the good
the
stuff.
good stuff.
The good
yeah.
stuff, that's
yeah.
right.
And if you didn't have the good stuff, you knew that you could talk to a guy that supplied your stuff.
You see over there that dark alley.
Yeah.
We could meet over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
that people would walk up to the stand and be like, "Do you have tissues?" and wink.
Yeah, wink, wink.
Or like, "Do you
He's
have
look at the
code
camera.
word?"
Do you have any fireworks in your trunk of your car?
Yeah. What do you got back
Yeah,
there
exactly.
behind? Yeah, that's funny.
That was a good time. So we did that. We did that basically as a family to try to, kind of earn our summer vacation. It was kind of, hey,
Yeah.
let's work for, 10 days or whatever it is, make, a bunch of money. And I think my parents, I don't know if they necessarily did it as like a source of revenue as much as it was, as I look back on it, it just forced all the kids to kind
the
of get
kids
together
yeah.
and just help out. I think all of us as parents, in fact, I just got a call from a guy last night that he was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this business and I just want something for my kids to go and work at. And so I think that's, any parent's, number one thought or what they're looking for. And I don't know if that's what my parents were looking at, but sure worked.
Yeah. A way for your kids to get income and work doing that. Good, be able
Yeah.
to work and earn income. Yeah.
When you were growing up, then did you see your dad and you think, man, it's kind of stressful. I kind of want a job, a steady job. Or
Did it sway you away? That's a good
It's
question.
funny you say that because I didn't want to be in sales, right?
Really?
I didn't want to be in sales, and that's all I've ever done.
I know, right?
So I saw the ups and downs, right? You're in insurance, and so you know that there's these, some months are good, some months are bad, some years are good, some years are bad, and you just saw this up and down. I thought, man, this is no way to live a life. It's stressful, it's time consuming, it's hard. And so a lot of that pressure then would kind of, translate to home. And so you could see it on your dad. And I thought, man, I don't think I want to be in sales. I just want to go do something 9 to 5, just be okay with that. And then I think it was when I got back from my mission, started doing sales. I was like, I'm good at this. Like, maybe I should just stick with it.
Did you do college or did you do any?
Yeah, I got back from the mission and jumped into college. And
For anyone that's not a member, a mission is just we
Yeah,
talked about
yeah.
it before on other podcasts, but it's like a 2-year.
yeah, 2 years. So right out of high school, I had to wait till I was 19 to go. So I had almost a year. And so, got a job at the local grocery store in Smith's, which is now part of the Kroger family or whatever. And I was doing night stocking, which was great because you had to go to work at like 11:30 and, done by 7 in the morning. So I could go out and play ball with any of my buddies, hit the golf course. It was like you didn't need to sleep at 18.
Were you golfing at 18?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
more
early.
so at 18, that young age. That's what I didn't do it before then, really once or twice a summer.
Huh.
But after high school, that's when I was like, okay, I'm married to this game now.
And then you got back. Did you go? So there's a college in Pocatello.
Yeah, so Idaho State. Went to Idaho State
Yeah.
University, was there enrolled as a student, and
What year was this?
this was 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's when you got back, so 21.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm thinking, 2001 was probably about, or I guess it was 2000 when I was there.
Okay.
Was doing, just enrolled in political science. I actually thought I wanted to be a federal law enforcement agency. There was a
Okay.
guy in the neighborhood that was a DEA agent.
Okay.
That was super cool. I thought it was
wouldn't?
like,
Yeah.
it was like he's got crazy awesome stories.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's what I want to do. I think that was also about the time of 24, the series, Jack Bauer.
True,
Right?
yeah.
I wanted to be Jack Bauer.
Is that old?
I think so.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember watching it. It was probably could've been-
23 years ago?
It probably was
so.
about that. I remember watching a bunch. Like, and there were
Sorry.
seasons of it when we got married, and that was in 2008. There were already seasons out. So I would bet it was. That
I had no idea we were that old.
Yeah, I mean, it
know.
was.
You look
I mean,
back.
and maybe that came a little bit later, but that fed right into my mentality.
It would have been during that college time.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I got a job at a cell phone store. Was working at just one little tiny store. We shared a space inside of like a Big Dog Satellite, over there in Pocatello. We didn't even have our own location.
Wait, what was the cell phone like in 2001?
It was crazy. I mean, you were selling flip phones with terrible cameras. You thought it was cool.
Had a camera.
Yeah,
I'm
we-
surprised it had a
Well, the
camera.
first
thought
ones
some
were
of them-
2002 when we graduated.
2000s were like the Nokias, no cameras.
Yeah, we
right?
had the Nokia. We had no camera because we both had it. We used our mom's phone in high school.
Thank you, Mom.
In 2002, yep, we borrowed them, and it was like the hard. It was Nokia. It was a
Yeah.
Nokia one.
Yeah.
And then the other one is that Motorola that we always called it the peanut phone because it was almost shaped like a peanut, like the gray, no flip, just a
Was it like almost like a
rubber type
Okay.
like face to it, and it was just had this little tiny screen and then the keys.
Yeah.
Yeah, we called it the peanut phone.
why did you just because that was an available job?
Yeah, it was just an available job. It allowed me to, so I'm back from my mission, going to school, and I could kind of work around kind of the school days. I could plan my school schedule and the work schedule. It was a commission-only type deal, which I thought, okay, I can kind of.
It was commission only, really.
Yeah,
You're
it's
in an
commission.
office.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It was probably violated a few labor laws there, but it was all good.
I wonder what the cell phone plans were.
I remember. I had
back
one.
in the day,
I
it
got one in
was like,
2003.
it was like a $35 plan. It was like 3 tiers. You had like
You paid for your there was no
Paid for
texting.
minutes.
there was
You
no
paid
texting.
for minutes.
No, yeah, you pay for your minutes. It was like 400 minutes, 700 minutes, 900 minutes.
Yeah.
And you had the unlimited night and weekend, so people would always
That's
wait
right.
until Friday night to call their loved ones.
That's right.
I can call them all day on Saturday and
And
Sunday.
it was like no long distance.
Yeah,
I don't
no-
know if it was. I think that was about the time it was no long distance, right?
Yeah, no long distance. I think,
Long distance is what?
No, I-
Outside of what, a 50-mile radius?
Well, when
or
I was a
something?
kid, I remember I was in Eagle, and calling Middleton was long distance. 'Cause
No way.
Yes, my aunt was out
Middleton's just
there.
a few miles away.
I know, but it was my aunt. I remember they're like, well, it's long distance. And by the time I graduated from high school, it wasn't anymore, I remember. But calling originally.
That must have been so frustrating for parents to like pay that bill.
Yeah,
Like,
if
you
you're
got a long. Who are you calling long distance? My aunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That lives just a couple miles.
20
away.
minutes away. Yeah.
Yeah. And cell phones, kind of changed that, put the light on that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was doing cell phones, and it was a great job. And then,
Sales. And this is where you kind of felt set. This is the first taste of sales?
yeah, this is the first taste of sales. I mean, I had sales jobs. I mean, it was funny. I was thinking about this after you guys invited me, and I'd listened to some of your episodes and thinking, where did people, first realize they wanted to be an entrepreneur, or where do they do that? I didn't understand that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I don't even know if I knew what it was. I didn't know that I could, necessarily own a business when I was a younger kid. Mm-hmm. But I can remember, and it's so funny to think about it, I was in 4th grade, and I think we came to Boise for maybe it was a state basketball tournament, or maybe it was just even Highland playing somebody over here in Boise. But we went to Sam's Club, and Sam Club had the box of Upper Deck baseball cards and basketball cards. And I thought, okay, I've got like 30 or 40 bucks. I could buy this box that's got like 20 packages, and I can sell these for what, like 50 cents less than what they're
less
selling.
expensive in the box.
Yeah.
And then bring them back and sell them for cheaper.
So
than
I was selling them at like during recess at elementary school, and it was so funny. That was back in the day where they had the stick of gum in them. And I was such a sugar nut. I was just like, hey, I'll sell them to you for $1.50 a pack, but I get the stick of gum.
And you're like,
Drove a hard bargain.
You're like,
Yeah,
here,
so I mean, it was just like pull
baseball
out
cards over here.
I didn't have any books in my
fireworks
bag.
over
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
You got a big wad of gum in.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
So, so I was selling these, baseball and football cards, and I was like, okay, I'm making like 10 or 15 bucks on my money by just buying these boxes. And so I was like, how often can we get to this Sam's Club, this crazy outlet store?
The funny thing is, this is like the basis of most business.
Yeah.
I
Right?
wonder.
You buy over here in
Yeah.
bulk, you bring it in,
Yes.
and then you sell locally.
So that
Yes.
was naturally.
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Sean had that
Yeah.
I wonder how many business owners got their start at Costco and Sam's Club.
Buying these things that arbitrage to smaller
exactly.
communities. Yeah.
I mean, it was just crazy. So I started doing that, and enjoyed it, loved doing that. Was making a little bit of money. I was a hustler as a little kid, trying to, my next door neighbor owned Clark Real Estate, and he owned a bunch of like duplexes and fourplexes all over the neighborhood. And so I remember one day mowing my lawn, and he says, "Hey, Sean, come over and mow mine. I'm busy." So I mowed his, and I was thinking, wait, if he's too busy to mow his own house, I wonder who he has mow, who he's hired to mow all of his other, properties that he owns. And so, 11 years old, I knock on his door, and I give him a business proposal that I'll mow all the ones that are within walking distance because I can push the mower to it, and I'll mow them. And he's just like, done, you're hired.
Yeah.
I probably did it for a third of what I should have charged him,
Right,
but
yeah.
I got smarter as I got older. But I continued to do that, every summer, even after I got my license, I would drive, the area just continued to grow.
Yeah.
So I was mowing lawns everywhere.
So you're saying you're in college and you
Yeah.
didn't think, I don't think I can start my own business. You've been doing it since
Yeah.
you were like
Yeah.
in fourth grade, but
But it was just like, you're in college. You're like, what do you do, right?
yeah, in
How do you
college it kind of
start?
pushes you toward.
Yeah.
They push you toward jobs a little
Right.
more, don't you think?
Yeah.
They do. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, so I, thought, okay, I'm going to go get a career. Didn't want to be in sales because I had seen my dad have all these ups and downs.
Even though you were in sales,
even though I was
well.
in sales, loving it, doing
Yeah.
well.
And your dad didn't come to you and say, Sean, come in, let's do insurance.
He did. He
Okay,
did
he
actually.
did, okay.
He did. He actually had the guy that he was working with come and recruit me, and they said, "Hey, you'd be great at this."
Yeah.
And I remember sitting at him and looking him face to face, and just saying, "I don't want to do sales."
Yeah.
And
You have siblings?
I do. Yep. A family of 5 kids. So
Okay.
an older brother, older sister, and then 2 younger sisters.
And were any of your other siblings in the business at all, or did they do?
No. I think everyone's gone and done their own separate thing. Yeah. It was just, I think, my dad was great in just allowing us to kind of, go and choose our own path and do what we wanted to do. At the same time, he started his book a little bit later. So it wasn't like that there was this massive book that it was like, hey,
hand
come
over,
and
yeah.
work it. He was still growing it as we were like looking for time to get started in life. But yes, I'm working at this cell phone store, basically, helping this guy do everything. I actually, once again brought him a proposal saying, hey, look, you're struggling here. You need to hire me as a manager. So as I told you, we're commission only. So I was thinking, okay, this is my shot to get, a guaranteed paycheck,
salary.
Some sort of salary or some guaranteed money. I'm married now,
Got married in college then.
Yeah, got married in college and took him this proposal, and he's just like, nah, we're good. I'm good. He was kind of managing it, but he wasn't. He was managing it, but he wasn't. And, so I just kept doing it, was good at it. And then one day he came to me and he says, hey, why don't you buy me out?
You're 23 or 24?
Yeah, maybe 22, 23, something
Young.
like that.
Now,
Yeah.
what provider was this? This wasn't,
Verizon.
It was Verizon, okay.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like, now they have some combined ones, but really, it was,
Yeah.
they were just by
Yeah,
themselves.
I guess back in the day, it was like it was a combined. We did Verizon and Nextel. Nextel, the 2-way walkie-talkie, the radio deal.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it was Verizon was pretty much the main player, and,
Okay.
and even after I bought it, it was just Verizon exclusively.
Who was the one that AT&T bought out? Was it like Singular, or there was a big one?
Yeah, Singular used to be on their own. They bought them out. AT&T. There was
Okay.
over in Eastern Idaho was Edge Wireless. So if you grew up in Idaho,
Yeah.
there was an Edge that got bought out by AT&T as
Okay.
well. But
So-
that's how Verizon got started. They bought out a million different little
Yeah.
local companies.
Regional
And-
ones.
yeah, so is this, but it's not a franchise, right? These,
No. So it's kind of like one. This guy had what was called a sub-agent agreement. So
Okay.
there was a
Does he have to
master.
pay him a monthly?
He did, yep.
Okay.
So there was a master agent. His name was Mark over here in Boise. He was the master agent, and he
Like
allowed
of Idaho? Or some region?
just region.
Yeah.
You could set up and become a master agent, and then they would just allow you to kind of have relationships in wherever you wanted to grow.
And he had the rights to the area, and not someone couldn't come in and say, I'm going to be another master agent in this area. He was the only guy.
Yeah, Verizon did it really kind of however they wanted to.
Okay.
That was kind of the rule of, Western Idaho was different than Eastern Idaho. So there was a master agent or a different agent over in Eastern Idaho that you could have gone and signed up for, but
Interesting, but you didn't have to. You're
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so
and I think this guy, Adam had relationships to Mark over in Boise. I think his brother worked for him or even might have even owned some stores over there. But that was kind of how Adam had that
Did he live in
relationship.
Pocatello?
Adam lived in Pocatello, yep. Yeah.
so why did he want to sell?
He was getting into real estate. Funny enough, we go
interesting.
full
Okay.
circle here. So he was getting into real estate, and this is like 2004-ish.
Yeah,
now,
starting
to
I think,
grow. Starting to
2003,
boom.
2004, and that was like real estate was booming, and he looked at it as I'm going to get into flipping houses. I'm going to buy some distressed properties, fix them up, and then turn them over and make a profit.
He probably did.
Yeah, he did.
And for a few years at least.
Found some people that were kind of mentoring him, and he said, okay, I want to go do this. So we tried to figure out what the evaluation of the business was and what it, cost and what it was going to look like. And so we put all the numbers down together, and And I remember taking
Was it as complicated as like you were calculating EBITDA? And
no. I mean, we're both so young in our college days. I mean, I think he was just looking at just a
Like revenue times.
revenue run rate and just trying to figure out, what liabilities he had, which he didn't have anything other than the inventory that he owned.
and maybe rent.
And
or
then rent,
lease,
but there was
yeah.
no lease.
There was no lease? It was
Well,
a
there
month
was
to
no
month?
lease because, I mean, he literally had what looked like a church, like just a long, like plastic card table, like a folding table as a desk. And then we just said, hey, we'll just take this section of your office and we'll just pay you $500 a month to this satellite company.
Was it a retail location or in a mall?
Well, I mean, it was like this satellite company had their own standalone location, so they had like the main lease. But there was just like, I mean, and what's funny is if you've ever been through Pocatello, and I think the building's still there, it's next to Jamba Juice. It was the old Big Dog Satellite building. It's a red house that was like across the street from like a Winco, an area, and it was just like this old, somebody used to live there.
Yeah.
And then commercials got built around it, and they just kept it as a house. Well, Big Dog Satellite rented it. Well, we were in like the family room and kitchen area of this old house. We turned it into an office and a showroom. And it was like,
That's really good for them too.
absolutely.
I mean,
they
people are
didn't-
gonna,
they didn't need it. It was just off to the side.
Plus, you have
easy
some shared
signage.
customers too.
Yep. Yeah. And there was a lot of like,
You move into the area. Well, maybe get a cell phone and a satellite plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we started looking at it, and we went through the numbers, and I said, okay, we came up with a price. And
Now, you don't have to tell us exactly what that price is, but let's say, I mean, is it in the tens of thousands, or are we talking like, is it more than that?
no, very little.
Okay,
Funny
less
enough,
than 10,000?
I'll tell you, he came up with an offer to buy it for $13,000.
$13,000.
Okay.
$13,000.
Now, and you were in college still?
yeah, in college.
In college, married. Did it feel like a lot?
It did.
But did it feel like unreasonable amount? Looking back, do you think that was wrong?
No, I think it was it was a good price.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We figured out, what it looked like. The problem was I mean, I hadn't been to any. I mean, I was only like, I think 2 years into college, so I hadn't even started taking like economics classes or anything. So when you say EBITDA, I'm sure if somebody would have said EBITDA to me, I'd have been like, is that like a fruit?
I would like a bite of that.
Where would you buy that?
Yeah, exactly.
I would like more,
Yeah, I'd like more of that EBITDA. That sounds delicious.
Everyone should want more.
Yeah,
EBITDA.
exactly. Yeah, and so we ran the numbers, and I went out looking for a loan. Now the problem with looking for a loan of $13,000 when you own nothing,
you have all you have is the assets, and
no equity.
you didn't have a contract with the lease.
No.
They could have kicked you out at any time.
Could have kicked us out at any time.
Can't see that.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And so they're like, okay, well, let's look at the numbers. And every banker I met with said, there's no way we're lending you money on this.
Yeah, sure.
No way.
Because the revenue wasn't there, or just the fact of no lease?
Well, no revenue. I mean,
No guaranteed, right? They couldn't tell. Yeah.
The biggest thing, the reason why he wanted to sell it is he was going bankrupt. But the reason he was going bankrupt is because when I said he was paying himself to manage it, so he was paying himself a salary but not doing anything at the business. Well, the business couldn't support his salary.
Uh-huh.
So I looked at it and I said, well, look, if we eliminate him off the books, it's actually going to make like 3 times as much money. I mean, it was just eliminate that one line item. Like it's easily going to make money if we don't change anything. So that's what I kept seeing.
It goes from 2 people to 1.
Yeah.
And you're going to keep.
Well, there were a couple other, people selling
commission
there.
only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just like, and I was like, hey, I'm still okay. I'm surviving. So I looked at it, and what I look back on now is I was basically buying a job.
Right.
Like I can pay $13,000 and I can secure myself through college of what I need to make, where I'm at, how much I need to work, and go do my federal law enforcement. Right.
That's
That's
right.
what
So
I
you're
still
still
wanted
doing
to do.
political science.
Yeah, still doing political science.
Well, then you could resell it at
Yeah.
the end, right? You have an asset, I guess,
Yeah.
potentially.
I mean, I don't know what the asset is. But
Potentially.
Yeah. And so I'm going around town looking, for different banks, trying to get them to sign off on it, and everyone's like, not a chance,
No way,
not a
yeah.
chance. They kept saying, what do you have for collateral? And I'm like,
nothing.
guys, like I'm making payments on my truck. I don't own anything. I own zilch.
Yeah. So how'd you get the money?
Yeah, so this is the funny story. So I went to my parents And I said, hey, banks are asking for collateral. My dad's doing well at this point in time. He's got a boat, a couple of jet skis. And he's just like, okay, well, let's go talk to some banks. And what the banks did offer me is a signature loan, right? Interest rates were going to be about 3 times as higher with me because I've got good credit. They're just like, hey, if you sign and say
Like
that,
what, 12%? You think? You probably don't remember. But
yeah, I don't remember, but I remember it was above 10, right? And that was, it might have even been above like 15 because I want to say it was probably about 4 or 5% is what we ended up getting on the collateral note. But anyway, so we looked at that and tried to do it and came back. And this is probably the coolest part of the story is, my parents came like they do with any child. They love them. They, mom and dad, when you get a meeting with both mom and dad, it's serious, right? Mm-hmm. So mom and dad show up, me and my wife, Brooke, and they sit down with us and they basically just said, hey, we don't want you to do this. My dad just said.
Intervention.
Yeah. Said, being a business owner almost crushed the family. So they shared all their experiences of, filing for bankruptcy, being in a business that just collapsed overnight. And here I am, been married 2 years. My wife is pregnant with our first daughter. They're like, you're just getting ready to start your family. Your wife is pregnant. This is not a good idea.
Well, not only that, cell phones weren't established.
They weren't
really.
they weren't established, and my dad saw these numbers too. So he saw this business that was going bankrupt as well, and he heard all of these bankers saying, "No way, no way." And so it was really awesome. I've got probably the really awesome part of it is I've got the most supportive wife ever, and she says, in the meeting.
I was going to say, well, to your parents? Yeah,
in the meeting, she says, you know what? I believe in Sean.
Oh.
And so if he wants to go do it, we're going to go do it.
Was she working at all? She's pregnant, but
she's pregnant, and she was doing an office job at a medical receptionist. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she was going to school as well.
How does the parents feel? They're like, the wife believes. But then again, the parents could say, well, they're both young, right?
Well, the parents have seen Sean fail a bunch.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, and they've also seen me grow up. I mean, I got to tell you, like remember, I was that 13-year-old at the fireworks stand.
Yeah.
It was just like, what can I blow up?
Yeah.
Right? They're like, this is not a good idea, Sean.
Right.
But the thing about it is the time to take risks is when you're young.
Yeah.
In college.
And $13,000, it's not like this is 1970, $13,000. $13,000, it's a lot, but it's not like, people have way more student loans than that for their teaching degrees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was one of those things where my parents were just, super adamant, just saying, hey, we don't want you to do this. And, I wouldn't be on this journey if Brooke didn't say right then and there, hey, I believe in him. And it's been so cool because if we go into further of all the different crazy harebrained ideas I've had, nothing's changed from that initial statement of, I believe in you. Whatever you want to do, I'm with you. And then it was, I didn't know how much that meant. I do now, and I see it like all the time, but it was really cool because she said that. And when you have your daughter-in-law saying, hey, I believe in him and we're going to do it. And she basically said, hey, look, if you guys won't do it, we're going to go and get the signature loan.
Man, so she was doing the negotiating against her parents.
Yeah,
and that must have been tough.
And so
Good job, Brooke.
Yeah, and so my dad was just like, okay, well, we don't want you to get into a worse situation. We'll figure this out.
Okay. Because with the collateral loan, you could
collateral,
lower interest
it was going to be lower. Yeah. And we figured, that I think we ended up getting a loan for I want to say it was like $30-something thousand, and the loan was going to give me enough to buy him out, was going to pay for the inventory, and give me a little bit of operating capital to get going. That's what I figured out, what I needed to get going.
What did Brooke's parents do?
Brooke's dad is a generational farmer. He's been a farmer.
That's interesting. You're trying to see if she had a history of this.
Sometimes you marry in somebody and they're like, their dad was an IRS agent their whole life or something.
And they never want to take risks.
And they're like, no, don't take a risk, right? It's just too uncertain.
Yeah.
And they're growing up kind of.
I would say generational farmer.
I would say
that's
that.
risk. They're not risk averse.
Yeah. He's a super conservative guy, but he's a brilliant guy. He went to BYU. Could probably go and run banks. He's got, I can't remember what his degree's in, but it's in financial, type category. And when you think about farmers, I mean, they're a business owner.
Yeah, that's not, and it's
they're
not
taking an
it's a lot of risk.
extreme amount of risk,
Right.
like every year.
Yeah.
I mean, tons of money are going into the ground.
So I mean,
and
she
thinking,
probably
hoping.
saw the ups and downs,
Yeah.
but she wasn't, she wasn't afraid of it.
No, I think she just saw her husband that was passionate about something, and
Yeah.
she just said,
Cell phones.
I'm with it, and she
cool.
just said, let's do it.
That's cool.
And so, so we went out and met with a banker at Zions Bank, Paul Jordan, by the way.
You remember his
Still
name?
remember him.
Absolutely, yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah, it was awesome. So he sat down with him. He's just like, okay, well, what can we put up as collateral? And so my dad handed over the titles to his boat, and it might have just been the boat, but he came in with boat and jet skis, but he basically handed over the title to his boat. They evaluated it and said, okay, we can do this loan. And funny enough, so we got the check. He got the check because it's his loan, right? Yeah. We walk out of the bank. He hands the check to me, and his words of advice are, you screw this up, I'll kill you. So,
I want that boat.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Exactly.
say he's handing the title to the banker, staring at Sean like,
Yeah.
I'm giving
Yeah.
up my happiness. If you
Exactly.
suck, I'll kill you.
Yeah. It's like, you ruin our water skiing and
Yeah.
wakeboarding summers, I'll kill you.
Right.
So,
Thanks, Dad.
that was all the motivation I needed.
Yeah.
Jumped in with one store and, overnight was like, okay, I'm a business owner.
Yeah.
And then, it's funny because I think somebody on your pod earlier talked about like the circles they run with, right? I've just been very fortunate throughout all of my life to have like great people around me. I've been mentored by some of the best people, even when I didn't think they were mentoring me, or that maybe they didn't even think they were being a mentor for me. But I've been influenced by some just tremendous people. And some of those people, when I got started, were just everyday guys like me, but they gave me some different advice based off of the businesses they were running or involved with, of what I could do to improve this cell phone store. And we just started making some simple changes, like just how we approached the day, how we did it. Your mindset changes when you go from, I just do this to try to make a living, to, if I screw this up, there's people that are counting
Certainly.
on me. And we crushed it. We had
That's awesome.
We had a 300 and I can't remember, it was like 315 or 320% increase month one.
Oh, wow.
I mean, just crushed it.
Wow.
And through that first quarter, I was in business. Then a Verizon. What was really cool was the area president at the time came to that little store and just
Like,
said,
what's going on?
Said, hey, I just wanted to congratulate you. You were the winner for quarter over quarter increase for the entire company.
Like all of Verizon?
For all of
that
his region,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was like, they called it, I think, the Desert Mountain region at the time. So it
So
was
it's
like
multiple
5
states.
or 6 states,
Yeah.
Idaho, Utah, Colorado,
Well, they look
Wyoming,
at a
Montana.
report and they see 300%.
Yeah. So they're thinking,
the number
okay,
was
what's
small
going on?
to big,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So
And
Can you tell? You remember what revenue numbers were back then?
I don't.
I mean, are we talking like $50,000 one year or one quarter, and then like maybe $150,000 the next quarter?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Nothing realm.
No,
So
I
curious how
don't.
much these make.
I probably could go back and
Yeah.
look at it and find it, but all that I do know is, so that note, that 30 some odd $32,000 or $33,000 loan that we got from Zions Bank, we paid it off. It was a 5-year note, and we paid it off in 4 months.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And
Sometime, hey Brandon, put this in. I want to have a.
flag.
Well, you remember this. So I want to have a podcast sometime where we talk about, is it wise to co-sign with your kids
yeah.
because you're taking it. Sometimes I hear about people doing it in strange circumstances where I don't agree, and I wonder if I would have known your dad and seen him do this, I would be like, because the relationship is what you worry about, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's say you screw it up, you're gonna feel crappy. It's gonna.
Well, not everyone has the same story I do. I mean,
Right,
you hear about it all
exactly.
the time. I mean, even being in real estate, when parents are co-signing on houses and you see them signing on cars and different things like that, it doesn't always end.
And it's not
on
just the
this
money.
side.
The money sucks, right? Losing the boat, whatever. But I think about that relationship between that dad and that son.
Yeah.
But that's obviously the other side where it worked out great.
Yeah.
So-
And it was really great because, so with that, I developed a relationship with this banker, Paul. And every month, you know, I'm sitting here like, okay, am I looking at these numbers correctly? Because if I'm looking at them correctly, we did this much more money. Should I put that towards the loan? And I'd take the numbers into him and I'd visit with him, spend about a half hour with him.
Wow,
and we would
was
go.
a good guy.
Oh,
It's a
yeah,
unique
he was a
relationship.
great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we would go through them, and he's just like, you know, hey, hang on to that money because it, you know, I don't know your business well enough to know.
You want to have some cushion.
Yeah, something might change next month, right? And I mean, I was new into the industry too, so I didn't know. And so, you know, hung on to it. Well, then the next month we did even better. Like we continued to see this increase, and I go back to him, and he's just like, well, what are you doing differently? And I was like, well, we changed the dress code. We, you know, changed the way we, you know, talk to people. We changed kind of the look of the stores. We ended up re-merchandising it. We got rid of the church, the folding, you know, card table that looked like a church table, and put a proper desk in there. We changed kind of the display case. We bought better phones. And so we just started changing all those things, and just business started to take off, and it just continued to grow. And so, you know, what was funny is at the 4 or 5 month time when I say that we went to go pay that loan off, I went in, you know, because I'd just been making the payments and maybe a little bit extra. And then I went in because I was like, okay, now I know this is surplus. I can go ahead and cash this
I have enough
loan
cushion
out.
and I can just pay it off.
Yeah, and I hadn't been telling my dad that we were having success. So I was like, I'm going to go get the title. I'm going to get the title so I can give it back to him, right? And say, hey, you're good.
Oh, that's a good moment.
Yeah, and so we had done this, and I took it in there, and what was so funny is then Paul's just like, hey, are you looking for any investors in
Right, I
your
was gonna
company?
say.
Right? He's like, wow, you're
like-
crushing it. He's like, I know the bank said no to you, but now I want to invest. I was like, hey, Paul, I think we got it. I think we're good here. No,
Yeah,
we're good.
should be fine.
Yeah,
You had your
I-
chance.
I think we're good, man. So, but it was great. Developed a great relationship with Zion's Bank. And
Wait, what did your dad say? I want to hear.
Oh yeah. So anyway, so got the title back and you know, took it over to him that night. Brooke and I did. Took it over, and we just said, hey, just want to let you know that here's your title to your boat back. We got it. And he's like, what? You don't have to do this. You know, he was like, what happened? What changed? He immediately thought maybe we dipped into a savings account or
sure.
did something to try to just clear him of it.
Right.
And I just said, no, we're killing it. We're crushing it. But yeah, that relationship with Zion's Bank ended up paying off. They were the ones that helped me, you know, basically give me the financing to help grow my business.
So, and growing your business, this is when you started opening or purchasing other stores?
Yeah, opening and purchasing other stores. Meanwhile,
Within
I
that
didn't.
year?
Yeah, probably all within like a 2-year period.
How's political science looking?
Political science wasn't looking so hot at that time. You know, I was like, okay, maybe
Did you finish?
yeah.
Did you finish college?
I did not. No. Yeah.
We have this debate all the time. Like,
Is it worth it or not?
yeah. I mean, because think about it. He did the right thing. Like, he started his career and started growing versus going to some dumb classes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, they
paying
weren't dumb,
tuition.
right? But
Not
yeah,
dumb,
It
but-
it's not the better choice right there.
Right. For him, for sure.
You know, it was really funny when I talk about having a supportive wife. She even supported me through that decision. You know, I was going to school. We were doing really well. We were crushing it. Ended up developing great relationships with vendors who, at that time, it was really odd. You had like a wholesaler you were buying, you know, the cell phones from, but they were having to be pre-programmed so that they would work on Verizon.
Sure.
So Motorola would sell them to this company called Brightstar, and then Brightstar would sell them to all their vendors. And I don't even know why I ended up having such a great relationship with this guy. And I remember his name too, Ryan Cass. And you know, we just had like a friendship. We were both probably similar age, and he probably was like, hey, this guy's cool because he's my age, and we talk basketball and football as much as we do cell phones, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd never met him face to face, never ended up ever meeting him face to face, I don't think. But he called me one day, and it was while I was at school. And I remember, you know, at this point in time, I'd been in school a couple of years, so now I'm into econ classes. I'm like, okay, I'm running a business. Economics might
This
be a
makes
good
sense.
class to
Yeah.
take, right? And I remember, you know, not in a really even a public way, but something didn't make sense with the supply and demand theory in my mind from what I was doing with inventory. And so I remember it was being taught by a grad student. Remember waiting until after class to just ask a question saying, am I figuring out this, you know, understanding what you're saying the right way and trying to associate the different labels that he was using with my own experience, cell phones or accessories or whatever it was.
The one that has the practical experience right there and is applying the class immediately to what that's like.
He's probably getting like a C or a B too because he's spending all of his time
maybe,
like
but he's
thing,
internalizing
right?
the lesson.
Yeah,
This is how it should be. Anyway.
Trying to, and this grad student says, "That's how you're running your inventory?" And I said, "Yeah, am I doing something wrong?" And he's just like, "That's dumb. So that's stupid." He's like, "You'll be bankrupt in 30 days." And I was like, "Well, I've been doing it for almost a year now, and we're doing pretty good." And he's like, "Well, it must be a fluke." You know, it's kind of like,
I wish we had time to go through what you were doing because.
yeah, and I don't even remember. I just remember that because I was just like, wow.
So you think the book knowledge he was teaching didn't match up? It practically it didn't work.
No,
for you,
and I think it did. I just didn't know if I was associating everything correctly.
I see.
You know, and so I was like, okay, am I putting these in the right area?
Yeah.
And I do remember one of the things that, you know, what really kind of changed my trajectory of the business was you had to prepay for all of your cell phone equipment. And so you would bring it in at the first of the month.
It's a hard cash flow.
Yeah, and then you would just hope, I mean, because you just sold all these phones, so you have the influx of cash, so then you buy the phones. So then you bring in the phones, you sell them, but it was every month at the end of the month, our sales numbers would drop because we would run out of inventory. Because I was basically just...
You're trying to predict how much you're going to need.
Yeah.
And if you're growing, you're
and then you don't get your commissions to the end of that following month, you know, so you always had like this
60-day
gap
Yeah.
to try to do it. And I said, you know, so that's when I, you know, had Paul looked at it closer. He would have said, hey, keep some to boost up your inventory in that gap period. And so that's when I finally looked at it and said, okay, I need to have more phones at the end of the month. So I started changing the way I purchased, ended up going to that Ryan and I said, hey, do you guys allow credit? You know, what do terms look like to try to look and see that. And he was going to give me, you know, 1 or 2%, you know, financing terms. And I was like, well, what if I just put it on a credit card? He's like, oh, we just charge 2% for, you know, a fee on a credit card. And I was like, well, let's just do that. I can get all these points too. So now I can go on these epic trips.
That's right.
You know, and I'll just take
Just make sure to pay it before the 30 days is up.
Exactly. Because my bill with American Express was at the same time, would have been the terms were due. I was like, okay, now it's all making sense to me. But then I took that to this grad student and he was like, oh, that's ridiculous. You know, something with buying the phones on credit, waiting to pay them off and going through this gap or this risk period, or I don't remember what he said, but
if you can predict the sales, it seems like a really good.
Yeah. And maybe he didn't see it as predictive. Once again, it was a new industry.
Right.
But
well, economics, don't they just do the guns and butter graph? That's just so he was just like, where's your butter?
You know how many butter in this store?
Like, I don't see any guns. I don't see any butter. Not gonna
exactly.
Work. Anyway.
Yeah. So Ryan had called me that day and I'd sent him to voicemail during that class and he doesn't usually call me. I was kind of like, don't worry about it. Then, you know, went on with my day after, you know, that was the first class of the day. And I was thinking, geez, what a great 8 a.m. class to get started with, you know. And I went to a couple more classes and Ryan had kept calling me through the day and I just kept sending him to voicemail. Well, then I'm in this literature class. I don't remember. It was either English or literature. I don't even really remember. But so I'm in this class. He calls. Now, mind you, I've just got these, you know, a flip phone myself. So I see that it's him calling. I silence it, set it back down on the desk, keep doing what I'm doing. He calls like immediately after. He's not leaving voicemails. I'm like, what the heck? Calls again. I'm like, ah. So I step out of the class. I take the call. He offers me what was groundbreaking at the time, a purchase on a deal that was going to be the most phones I'd ever even thought about buying. But at that time with Verizon, you were selling phones for less than what you were buying them for. So there was always like, you might buy a phone for $300, but you would sell it for $200 and then make the commission on the plan.
But they still do it, right? That's what they're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, now it's different, right?
Different.
Now they're financing it. And, you know, I mean, you know, I think Apple and the iPhone kind of changed a lot of that. But anyway, so that was happening, you know, so he called me and it was like, I still remember the phone, the Motorola Crazer. So if you've had that phone, the really tiny, skinny flip phone, we were selling at Verizon at the time for $279, and we were buying them from Brightstar for, I don't know, roughly about $400. He said, hey, look, I can get you 10,000 units at $199.
So you'd make money on the phone too.
Make money on the phone, which was not the case with any phone.
And he
that
called
you
you,
had.
or is he calling everyone? You specifically,
He
probably.
called me because we were just friends,
Yeah.
right? So he called me and he's like, "Look, I got to," and the reason I'm calling you is I got to move these today.
Is
If you don't-
10,000 a huge amount?
10,000 would have been. I mean, at the time, I think we had gone from 1 to 2 stores. Would have probably been all of our inventory for the year.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
it's
mean,
a
that
lot.
was a lot of phones.
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Look, but you need to take so many." And I was like, "Oh my gosh,
10,000. Let's do some math there. What
So
is
that's a
that?
gamble.
1,880. It's not 180, is it? 180,000. Am I doing the math right?
Yeah, you're doing it. It was like just
$180,000.
like 200,000.
Big American
Yeah.
Express bill.
Yeah, $200,000.
I bet you didn't have that much credit on the American.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did. I had to make a few phone calls. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that. But yeah, so I just said, man, that's a great deal. Seemed like an awesome opportunity. I was like, okay, how many do I need to commit to? And he's just like, well, you don't have to take them all now. If you can commit to the 10,000, I'll
Okay.
spread it out over
Like a
like a
purchase
4
order.
month period.
Yeah, so you don't have to. You don't have the upfront of all that money at once.
So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Ryan, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, my heart was pounding through my chest. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even have a house yet. I'm renting a house, and I just committed. At that time, that was
That's a house.
That's a house,
Right, that's a
right. Not now. Sorry if you live in Boise. It's definitely not a house now.
Yeah.
It's a mobile home.
Yeah,
Maybe.
But
That's
yeah,
a boat.
I was so stressed. My heart was pounding through my chest. And so I hang up the phone and I go to walk back in class, and the professor was like on his way out. So he stops me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, sorry. I took a call. I had a work call." He's like, "We're doing a test. You can't leave class during the test." It didn't even dawn on me what we were doing.
You had a
in class.
test?
You must
were,
not have
like,
been. You must
doing
not have started yet.
something.
You must have walked out. He was probably starting to hand it out.
No. I mean, it was like we were doing. I mean, maybe it was a quiz. That's why I say it was like a literature class. Like I don't even remember.
So
like,
he failed you because it's like it looks like you're cheating.
Not only did he fail it, he ripped it up in front of my face. He had the paper and went right there in
Yeah.
front of my face, and I was like,
Why would you do that as a teacher?
That's
I don't know, 'cause a lot of
you
these
feel-
guys have
Scratch it.
power
I mean, don't you feel a little
trips.
insulted probably a little
Yeah.
bit? I mean, I think you feel like, oh, he just walked out. How dare he?
Yeah.
Whatever he's doing, he thinks it's more important than my stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
And,
it
I
was.
mean,
it was.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess. And so I was like, wow, okay then. So I remember thinking, I wonder if I drop out right now, if I can get my money back on my tuition.
Yeah. Get my withdrawals on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So because I was like, well, there's
Early on.
no point in going back to class. So I went in, grabbed my backpack, walked over to the registrar's office or whatever, and I just said, hey, if I drop out of class right now,
all classes.
just everything, just say I'm done, do I get my money back? And she's like, yeah, we're only like 2 weeks into the semester, so you qualify for
withdrawals.
like 80% or whatever back. And I was like, can you just give me a check now? And she's like, yeah, is that what you want to do? I said, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and drop out. Like I'm done. And I
You didn't call your wife first?
I hadn't even called Brooke.
Oh man.
You walk home. Say,
I
by the
hadn't
way,
even called Brooke,
called dropout here.
and so I remember, in the story, I remember this of, I'm home, when she gets home from class, and I'm supposed to have like a lab or some class at that time, so we wouldn't have seen each other at that point in the day, and she walks home, she's like, why are you home? And if I remember correctly, I might have been playing Madden video game online. I was like, well, I've got some extra time. I'll play a game of Madden, and I was
Drop out to
I was
play.
like, oh, I just dropped out of school. She's like, okay then.
Yeah.
I guess we're committed to this cell phone thing,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, yeah, we're gonna.
What's
do
funny about that is you're like, don't worry. I just spent a lot of money
this. Yeah,
I dropped out, spent a bunch of money, and I'm playing.
and
Madden.
I'm winning.
yeah,
I'm winning
exactly. Yeah, and I'm up 7-3. No, yeah. So ended up dropping out of school right then and there, and said, okay, well, I'm gonna focus on the cell phones. And a couple months later, had an opportunity to buy 3 stores up in Idaho Falls and Rexburg. Turned it down.
Months? Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
3 months later.
Which is like, that'd be tough when you just made that big.
Yeah, just made that big a purchase.
flows.
But what was interesting is, that changed it. We were able to bring those phones in.
Yeah, you're making way more money.
Well, and then the other thing is I learned the wholesale game too. So I was like, you know what? If Ryan's doing this,
resell it,
I bet
yeah.
I can find out some retailers that would want to purchase these units from me. And so I started calling all the cell phone dealers that I knew. And I was just like,
You're like, I could keep these for the whole year, or I could sell them right now and make
I
money.
can sell and make money.
I mean, you had experience with the baseball cards. I mean, come on, let's go
Yeah,
back
I
to the
mean,
Sam's
it's-
Club. You already knew what you're doing.
Exactly.
Right. This is
Just-
old hat for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just wish there was a stick of gum in the cell phones.
Right.
I get the stick of gum.
Yeah.
It was just some wad of cash, but
Yeah. No, so we brought the majority of those phones in, and the way I looked at it is I was like, okay, I'm going to sell this phone to the customer for $279. I'm bringing them in at $100 or $200.
so you can sell. You're going to sell them lower. No, because that's not what you were selling. You were
I'm
selling.
going to sell them.
Yeah.
So now I'm making money, which was different. So I mean, our change in revenue was almost about $150 to $200 just a change in revenue on that if they bought that. So we said we're going to make this such a sweet deal for the customer, package it with some accessories and other things that everyone's going to want that phone. Because I mean, I have so many to sell.
You're not losing
I
money. It's a
need
huge swing.
Yeah, it's a huge swing.
Yeah.
I mean, it changes your revenue. I mean, it was.
Well, from losing money in the phone to now you're making money in the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Even
Yeah.
breaking even, you still are winning because
Yeah.
previously you were losing money.
Well, my salespeople, they were paid on commission, and so they were like, "This is awesome. You know, my commission's gonna, increase big time as well." So I started calling a bunch of Verizon dealers, and I said, "Look, you're losing money when you sell this phone. What if I could get you to break even?" So I was like, "I don't want to sell it to them for $199.
No, you want to, it's the $279.
I got this special deal from Ryan, so I'm going to sell it to them for $279. So I was like, "Well, that's what I'm going to make if I just sell it to a customer. I just won't be activating plans." And so I moved those phones like all over, probably the Pacific Northwest, selling all those phones, and our cash flow just, I mean, in those 3 or 4 months was like, whoa,
Yeah.
like we're doing really good. This is awesome.
Sean, the cell phone baron.
Yeah, exactly. So had an opportunity to buy the stores in Idaho Falls and Rexburg. I said no to the guy. So it was the master agent over here in Boise, and he was just like, "Hey, we've got stores at a different agent." So somebody else was running them, and they were struggling and gonna abandon the leases. And one of them was in the Grand Teton Mall. And back in the day, and even probably still today, mall leases were so expensive, like just crazy expensive. I mean, you could go rent, a business, on the main road in any town for $1,500, but you go to a mall, you're like $5,000, and you're like, and it looks like I sell pretzels out of a cart. Like,
Right.
come on, this is a joke. And I mean, it's like airport food is like mall rent prices.
Yeah.
And so I said no, and he's just like, "Okay, well, just to let you know, if you don't take these, then I'm going to come over there and open them, and we're not necessarily competitors right now.
A little bit.
But if I come to East Idaho, we will be competitors." And I said, I'm willing to take that risk. I'm not ready to grow and go into those markets. I lived in Pocatello at the time, had my 2 stores in Pocatello. It was simple. It was easy. I could be there every day. 3 months later, he called me back and said, he said, "We're struggling. We don't know how you're doing what you're doing here in Eastern
So
Idaho."
he started taking over.
So he took over in 3 months, was just like, this is a,
Because, I mean,
Not only
rent
that,
didn't help.
and he doesn't want to travel Boise to Idaho Falls.
yeah,
all the
so
time,
he
right?
tried to hire people over here in Eastern Idaho, and I mean, he's trying to manage them from Boise. And his manager lived in Vegas at the time. So
Yeah.
the guy that was running his, lived in Vegas, and, get from Las Vegas to Rexburg, Idaho. I mean, talk about a culture shock for that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just like, okay, this is different.
There's no capri pants in Rexburg.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus Vegas.
Just like, why is it so cold here? Like, I'm not coming. And so, so Mark called me back 3 months later, and he just said, "Okay, Sean, I want to sell you these stores." And I said, "Man, I told you 3 months ago I don't want to buy them." And he said, "Well, this time I got a better deal." I said, "Okay, what's your deal?" And he says, "I'll sell them to you for $1 because I hate them."
That's it.
And I was like,
Really?
well, that's a
Because
little...
he's going to get the revenue. You're paying him monthly, right?
Yeah, I'm paying him monthly, and so he's getting a little bit of money, but he's looking at these like going...
And the
"Hey,
liability,
I'm-
too, right? He still has those leases. He
has the leases,
to
and so
maintain.
he's losing money. So,
Right.
I mean, he's looking at it. If I sell these to Sean for $1, he's on the hook for the leases. So he's making, more money just by not going under
Right.
on the leases. And so I said, okay, $1 is something I can do. I'll buy them. I didn't have any staff. I didn't have any clue what I was doing.
So you went home and played Madden.
Yep. So I went home. That was my go-to, right? Go play. Maybe at this time it might have been NBA 2K.
There
or
you go,
something,
yeah.
right?
season. I mean, we're probably talking winter.
So anyway, yeah, I agreed to buy him for $1, and I was just like, all right, I'll go figure out what I've got and the staff, and I figured the best thing for me to do was to get plugged into the BYU Idaho community, try to hire,
Which is the college over
yeah,
there.
the college over there in Rexburg, and try to find my salespeople there. And
I mean, college age students are perfect.
I mean,
for
it was
the-
perfect.
Yeah, Dustin,
for,
cell
remember
phone,
Dustin
yeah.
used to work.
I mean,
Yeah.
most all of my employees were like, they were going to school to be some, I mean, we had a guy that,
DEA agents.
yeah, DEA agents, one was wanting to do home health, one was, getting his, basically just his degree because he wanted to go be a doctor. And I always loved that because I was just like, hey, look, this can be your
You're
job.
helping them through college.
Yeah. And it was cool. They were like, they'd go on to do all these other things. And I never thought that was a bad thing that they worked here for me and then went on to do other things. I thought it was awesome. It was like, look, you're going to learn skills.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to teach me. I'm going to teach you. We're going to be in this together. We're going to continue to grow. And it was fun. But yeah, Rexburg was a great store for me, and Idaho Falls, both locations there were good. And
That commute from Pocatello to Idaho Falls, is it 45 minutes an hour?
to Idaho Falls, yeah, 45 minutes an hour. Rexburg's about an hour and 20.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's about 20 minutes further from Idaho Falls up to Rexburg. But yeah, so once you had good staff and a good, group of people that you could count on, you just started to grow. And then I started doing just crazy things, like just thinking outside the box. This is when it started. I started to get my wheelhouse of figuring out like how to do things, how to get creative. If somebody told you no, you started to think, okay, there's got to be a way around this. Like, what is it? I mean, I did some crazy things. Like I bought a T-Mobile dealer, ended up visiting because this guy had a freaking awesome location right by the best intersection in all of Rexburg, right by the college. And it was a T-Mobile store. T-Mobile didn't have the best coverage up there. Verizon had phenomenal coverage. I was like, man, I want that location so bad. Ended up visiting with the landlord, who was owner of like the Ericsson's GMC. It was one of, it was him. He had the strip mall, and he said, well, the guy's like 4 months behind rent, so there might be an opportunity. And so I thought, how do I get creative here? Well, I told him I just wanted to buy out his store. I told him, I said, I want to get into cell phones. He didn't do any research to find out that I'm a Verizon dealer.
Oh, you didn't tell him. You didn't come to him.
No, I just said I want to buy his store. It wasn't. I didn't go to him saying I want to take over your location. I thought, okay, if this guy's behind on rent, he's behind on his bills.
Yeah.
I just want to buy his business. And so that's when you talk about, hey, can I buy that business and get involved in it? So I just started saying, hey, how much for your business? Just tell me, give me a number. And he started trying to figure out what that number was, and he finally came up to a number, and I was like, all right, I'll write you a check today. And he's like, okay, well, let's do it at the end of the month.
13,000, 15?
I don't remember. It wasn't much, but, bought his location like on the last day of a month. And then the very next day I closed the store, like put signs on the windows, closed. And I remember him calling me, be like, hey, the employee said that you closed the store. Like, what's going on? I said, yeah, I'm a Verizon dealer. I've got to switch it to a Verizon store. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, I just wanted your store. I don't need your business.
Was he upset about that?
No, he was just like, man, I didn't even know. He's like, I would have done a Verizon store there. And I was like, well, you didn't ask. I'm going to.
Yeah.
And I remember just going in there, and, all the walls were pink. And I was like, yeah, red will go over this well.
Yeah, all right. Different
it was
shade
funny,
of pink.
but it looked like a murder store because I was like, oh, man, this is a lot of red, And so, yeah, I ended up buying out that store and switching it, overnight, basically. It's like, when can I put a sign on this? And, within, 6 weeks, we had a sign pulled down and a business back up and ready to go. And it was doing deals like that. It was pretty fun. Yeah.
So you're not selling cell phones right now. So what's the conclusion of the cell phones?
Yeah, in 2009, so I did about 5 years. I grew. At that time with Verizon, their thing was, if you wanted to grow even more, you were going to have to start going to areas that they didn't have a distribution plan. And what was unique about the opportunity that I was living in, so I had 5 or 6 stores at the time in eastern Idaho. I could drive to any of them. Within an hour and a half, I could be to any location. So now you're talking like jump on a flight, get a hotel. You're going to like New Mexico, Arizona. For me, that was stressful, and I thought, there's something about being able to just show up to any of your locations, influence it, being in the front of it helps sell. I mean, I'd never stopped selling at any of the stores. It was like, if I can be the best salesperson in any one of the locations, it'll help us because I don't pay myself any commission. And so when Verizon presented me with that opportunity, I was like, that's not an awesome opportunity. So I went back to the guy in Boise and I said, hey, I want to sell the stores that you sold me to you. And he's like, why? And I said, because I want to grow, but the only way for me to grow is either go to a different market or sell them and be a part of a dealership that's better or bigger, that's looking to grow. And he was like, I love this idea. And he said, but let's not do it. And so we went, business for probably about another year. And then the phone rang and he said, hey, now I want to do it, because he had some growth plans in mind. And it was a funny story. My wife and I, we had tickets to the Super Bowl. We were going to the Super Bowl, Arizona versus Pittsburgh in Tampa. And he called me like the Friday before the game and said, I want to talk to you. And I said, let's do it. I said, let's figure it out. Let's do it. We go to the game. I don't speak to him anymore. I mean, other than that conversation that I'm super interested, let's figure it out. And we go to the game. Unfortunately, Arizona loses. We're coming back like on a Monday or a Tuesday, and I get a call from one of my reps saying, hey, Quest is on the line trying to do an assumption of liability change for the landline and internet to a dealer in Boise. And I was like, wait, what? And so I call Mark, and I'm like, Mark, what are we doing? Like, we haven't agreed to anything. He goes, no, you agreed to sell them. We'll figure out the price. I'm not worried about that.
Gosh.
And I'm like,
Yikes.
I love this.
But that means he can ask what he wants, though.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, all right.
If he's
like,
doing it,
I'm like, perfect.
he's locked in.
I love
he can name his
this.
price.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Okay, I didn't think about it that way. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, he's committed.
Right.
And so we started talking. I got everything I asked for. And what was cool, I had seven stores, I think, at the time, sold to him, which made us 39 total stores. So he had basically Boise, a couple in like Burley, and then the Eastern Idaho stores, and then he had like a 7-store footprint over in like Vegas area.
Yeah. So that's basically what happened is like you're trying to sell your house and they move in.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then you're
And
like,
they're
well,
we'll figure out the price.
Yeah.
Well, you're in.
so you're not moving.
Here's the price.
No, totally.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I have customers do that where they tell me, oh yeah, we already integrated everything. And I'm just like,
Okay. All right.
looks like we're done.
Yeah.
That's funny.
This is going to cost you.
Yeah.
So anyway, from there we, sold the stores. And
So how do they sell? I mean, there's a variety of, some businesses sell for tons, multiples, some are less.
yeah, we just did a multiple.
So
Yeah.
just multiple of revenue.
I just took revenue and, set a number, and he gave me that number, and I looked at it and bounced it off of the accountant, bounced it off the banker again, and he's just like, look,
Same
man,
banker.
Yeah, same banker.
Paul.
Still had a relationship with Paul.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I love it. Do it. And
Now, I don't want to get specific numbers, but people got to be curious. So is this like enough like, hey, I can now retire for a few years. I can now retire forever. Like, where's our
No. So it was a lot of money, but it was not anything that was going to be like significantly life changing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not going to last forever.
right? And really, you're planning to use it to open up more stores, and that was the plan, right?
Yeah, I mean, my plan was just like, hey, look, I can sell this.
Mm-hmm.
I can put a ton of money away. I can basically change the trajectory of mine and Brooks, and I think we had 3 kids now at the time. And we'll go from there. And what was awesome about Mark, and when I talk about being a mentor, he was that for me. The coolest thing he said to me was just like, look, I want you to be president of sales for my business. And he said, I just want you to think like you own all of these
He said that
stores.
before the sales, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he just said, you're doing great. I just want you to do great for me. He's just like, just do what you would do just for me. And I was like, okay, I can handle this. And through a 6 or 7 year period, we grew that from 39 stores to 109 stores.
Oh wait, so you did keep working with him?
Yeah,
This is
I
after the
stayed
sale.
with him.
Okay.
Yeah, stayed with him for the
I
entire
assumed
time.
you went down to Lehigh too.
Yep.
During this time, right? Because of the market.
Yeah, because we were growing and we were opening up a ton of stores. Moved to Lehigh so I could be closer to an airport and jump to all of these different locations all the time.
Mm-hmm. But no equity. You didn't have any equity in those.
Didn't have any equity.
Yeah, which is good and bad.
Yeah.
You have to sleep a little better at night,
Yeah.
maybe.
That's actually funny you asked that, but that's probably why I'm like, okay, I got to do this again.
Yeah.
So we did such a good job for him. He was able to merge his company with a bigger one in 2015, 2016, something like that. with a bigger company. We went from 109 stores, like 730 something nationwide. I stayed on as a regional vice president, but I look at that part of my career of like, I hate corporate America.
Sure.
Like I didn't love it. It was like I was like the captain of the Titanic, right? I could see the iceberg, but there was nothing I could do to get out of the way. Because when you start trying to move that many stores, you just don't, right? It just takes forever. Everything was slower. Didn't love it, and that's why I said, okay, now the time is to go and start my own again.
No non-compete.
No non-compete. Nope, no non-compete. It was in a different space. I had some people at the Verizon headquarters office reach out to me. They were going to get into this new prepaid space like Cricket and Metro PCS and some of those. And so they said, hey, we hear you might be interested in doing this. I was looking at opening up a Cricket dealership.
So you'd already quit.
I hadn't quit, but
you'd kind of let it be known that you were.
Yeah, everyone knew that, hey, I was going to do this, and they knew that I had experience doing it. And, so I guess I was an attractive business opportunity for some of these folks at Verizon. So took on another business partner, said, okay, if I'm going to do this, grow this, I'm going to need, a little bit more, financial backing. And we jumped in and did that, and we started opening up Verizon prepaid stores all over the country. We opened up 52 stores in 18 months. I mean, it was like on a plane, opening up a store like
every other week. Every
other week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hired a team.
All over the country?
We had them in 7 different states, but, primarily in like we called it like the desert region of Verizon. So like Arizona, Texas, Nevada were like the bulk of them, New Mexico area. And then we had some in the south region of Verizon over in like New Orleans, area of Louisiana. So it was crazy, but it was a good time. We did that and did that for a year and a half, about 2 years, and had another successful exit. And
who did you sell these to? So you own them, but again, it's kind of like a franchise-ish deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, we learned so much through the process. Verizon decided that they, there's different iterations of it now. So you can see they've just started talking about Total by Verizon. They've got Visible by Verizon. Verizon at that time, I think, realized like we've done such a good job branding ourselves as a premium product. We might not be ready for a prepaid space. And so it was kind of like a different thing. So we kind of saw that and moved on from that. And that's when you talk about, having time or money to say, okay, do you want to retire? Do you want to do different things? I gave that a shot for about a year.
Okay, so after that exit, then you were at that point like, maybe I could be done.
There was some friction there at the exit.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
But then, so that kind of soured you to the cell phone?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't so much soured me to the cell phone. It was just like there was a lot changing in that industry.
Yeah.
As you talk about like the previous one that I went from, the small guys were getting purchased by bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger companies. And so it was like, if you don't go and try to become the biggest, there's going to be a ceiling that you're going to hit. And it's like, do you want to keep going down that road? Or do you want to just say, you know what, maybe let's go do something else? And we had an opportunity, so we took it. So we left and did that. And that's when, you want to go back to supportive wife. That's when she said, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't really know. During that time, we moved from Lehigh to Boise. So that's what brought us to Boise.
It's probably, 2018?
17, I think, 2016, 17-ish.
You're like buying your crypto.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, buying the crypto. And, so I'm trying to think. We came here and started having fun and did it for a little while, and then, when we got out of that and we're done with it.
You say did it like have fun? You're saying?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, with it, because we moved during the time I was doing those stores. So we were here in Boise. Then once we exited, it was kind of like, okay, what's the next thing? What do I want to do now? Mm-hmm. That's when, saw an opportunity at the Euro Shack. They were bringing on franchisees. Bought into a franchisees back with Mark, who was
original guy, yeah.
We brought on another partner, so we had the brains behind the operation, which is our finance guy. That was the finance guy with our cell phone stores. Mark, who was the principal, owner, and then me. We bought, opened up 3 franchisee Euro Shacks, And so I
Here in
dabbled
the Boise area.
Here in the Boise
Well, I
area.
have contributed to those.
Oh man, it's great food.
It is really good.
It is really good food. And
Yeah.
I remember being a longtime customer, and they said they're looking for franchisee opportunities. I was like, oh, I could do that.
I'm surprised they didn't have it already locked in.
Yeah, I think they were just looking to grow. I mean, the original owner was an owner of Papa Murphy's, and so he had a lot of like connections, and so he was growing everywhere. And so they had a relationship with our finance guy, said, yeah, we'd sell a franchise to you here in Boise. So we bought one of their existing locations to give us kind of a blueprint of how to do everything, opened up 2 other locations. And
Chicken Bacon Ranch.
yeah.
That's the one I get all the time.
Yeah.
With
that's
like
a good
Greek
one.
fries.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, Greek fries was created by Brooke.
So good.
Get out of
no
here.
No way.
Yes.
No,
Really?
Wait,
Yes.
wait. That's not Greek?
Well, I mean, the idea at the Euro Shack.
Oh.
So when we bought the franchisee,
That's like, that's not Greek?
yeah, when we bought the franchisee, they weren't selling fries. And I was just like, guys, we're in Idaho.
on.
Fries are like the cheapest thing that we can buy and sell to our customers. It's got the best margin at any food place in Idaho, and they weren't doing fries. I was like, okay, we'll do it. And that was the but you have to let us sell fries.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Only good things about Brooke on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Seriously. Yeah.
Only good. Like, Brooke comes out of here the star of this whole thing.
You know,
right.
and so what's so funny is Brooke and my oldest daughter, Taylor, and even Brinley, you know, they were sitting there messing with different fry iterations. So we would go and get Euro Shack, and then we'd stop somewhere else and grab fries. And they would just, let's chop up some Euro meat. Let's throw on some cheese. Let's do some
made it Greek,
seasoning.
yeah.
They would do these different Greek fries at the house, and they're just like, okay, I think we found it. And I was like,
They did a good job.
we're gonna sell.
I like
we're gonna
the group.
sell
They're
that
good. Yeah,
at the
no.
store.
Yeah.
And so we opened up and started doing that, and that was kind of her creation. And we added, a couple of different menu items, and I did that and loved it, but didn't love it.
It's not the same. Restaurant's different than
different employee, different class, different headaches, different challenges.
Food goes bad. Your inventory
yeah.
goes bad.
Yeah, inventory goes bad. You can't go buy 10,000, bags of fries and sell them all over the country or whatever.
for the next
It's
year.
like,
Yeah.
it's like they're gonna go bad. They've got an expiration date. And so I didn't love it, and so there was an opportunity for us to actually buy the entire franchise out. So we had an opportunity to buy the franchise, and their vice president didn't have equity into the franchise, so he was going to be without a job if we bought this franchise. We worked it all out to where we were going to buy it, and I thought, you know what, this would be a great time for me to sell my equity to this guy who wants to stay in.
Well, that's fortuitous. Sometimes those can be messy to get out of.
Yeah, and so we worked that out to where we bought the franchise like January 31st, and then I sold like my ownership like February 1st to this guy. And what was crazy is that was done. Everyone says, man, do you have a crystal ball at home? I did it February of 2020.
Like right before,
right
'cause it's
before it
March
shut
when
down.
it shut down.
Right before COVID.
I bet you Brooke told you to sell.
Yeah.
Probably.
Brooke probably was like, Sean, you need to get out of this. Brooke was also the one that gave me the green light to put the golf sim in the house. So, I mean.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Brooke's coming out of here.
Super supportive. You know what? You probably
flying
should have
high.
had Brooke on the podcast.
I think,
She's
we
probably a
should
better.
rename the podcast.
Cancel
Yeah.
it. Cancel
Yeah.
this.
Brooke Kress, husband,
Brooke Kress.
wife to someone else.
She's so good, doesn't even show to the pod and is like
Yeah.
the sponsor.
Yeah. Yeah, she's the
Cool.
entrepreneur.
That's cool.
I'm just the face behind it. She's
There you
the
go.
one. She's the entrepreneur.
So what'd you
She's-
do after that then? I mean, what'd you...
Yeah, so after I did that, that's when I got into the real estate.
Real estate.
Opened up a real estate team, started doing some real estate investing. I've been
hard to
purchasing-
just chill.
Yeah, hard to just chill. Played a lot of golf. Like I said, put the sim in the house. Played a lot of golf, but I definitely was not good enough to make money. Not.
Well, you have against me.
Yeah, I mean, not
Make
a large
not official.
not a large amounts of money. Put a flag on that. Let's edit out the Venmo payments from Brandon and
Yeah,
I.
IRS, don't listen to that.
They're definitely under $600.
That's right. No 1099.
$5.99. That's all our bets.
Yeah, exactly.
All the bets are $599.
$5.99. Yes. Yeah. So and then since then, just been being an entrepreneur. Love it. Being involved in stuff. Just trying to find different opportunities. I mean, I think it just always goes back to that kid that was selling baseball cards and fireworks. If there's money to be made or a better way of doing it, it's like I want to put my hand in it and try to capitalize on it.
It's hard to turn that off.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's crazy.
A few questions.
Yeah.
What would you do different? Like looking back your whole life.
Man, what would I do different? Gosh, I don't know that that's a really even an answerable question. And the reason why is because I feel like, good or bad decisions that have been made, like they teach you stuff and it helps you become more of who you are. And, failure is not inevitable. Failure is what drives us to different successes. And although, you come on a podcast and you're able to talk about all your successes, there were tough times during there. There were times where I felt like we were not going to make it or that I had done something stupid or, we made a bad decision. But the important thing is I always had the support of Brooke. She was always supporting me and pushing me. And still to this day, her favorite saying is just like, hey, I believe in you. So if you believe in it, like I'm with you. And so I don't know that I would take and change any of that because it's gotten me to who I am today and where I'm at. And I love that. So I don't know that I would change anything.
What are your thoughts on partnerships?
I think partnerships can be good. Not all partnerships are great. One guy told me from the very beginning, plan the divorce as you're getting into the partnership. At some point in time, one of you is going to want to exit. Now, I'm not talking about marriage here when I say divorce, but figure out what that is. If you've got an exit strategy, what is your exit strategy? When we get to a certain point, because I think Travis Hawks was on here a while ago, and he talked about his dad and his dad's partnership, and he said that it came down to a coin flip, right? Who was gonna?
I remember that.
Who was gonna keep the dealership? Who wasn't? Right.
Right.
I'm sure if they would have planned for that in the beginning, it probably wouldn't have been around a coin flip.
Right.
Yeah. It would have been like, hey, this is how we get out, and this is how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be an emotional roller coaster if you don't have those things put in play.
Contract already, right?
Yeah.
That's a really
agreement.
smart way of thinking about it because
Whenever you start, you're just like, this is a little
it's all
thing.
sunshines and rainbows
Yeah.
Right.
when
You
you
don't want to
start.
spend that money. Yeah.
You'll never
Yeah.
fail.
I
when
mean,
you start.
I would venture to guess that, if everyone had that strategy, you wouldn't have a lot of court cases and disagreements.
It'd be taken care of.
It'd be like, hey,
Yeah.
look, this is what we agreed on then,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing's changed. And if you want to revise it as you continue to grow and
Sure.
things change, absolutely. But
Just have to have it
Always
paper
have
before
that.
the emotions get strong.
yeah. I've had some great, partners and mentors in my life to where, if I wouldn't have taken on my buddy who's the owner of Club Swan and Aura, cards in that business, he was my partner in the prepaid stores that I went to go grow that with. If I wouldn't have taken him on as a partner then, it wouldn't have been as successful as we were, because it just ended up costing so much more money than I had the means for.
Yeah.
And he was able to kind of fast forward that growth and keep it going because he could supplement the cash flow as we were building it.
I think that's the crux with partnerships. You can achieve potentially greater heights.
Yeah.
But conversely, it could be even more difficult, right?
Yeah.
Founder conflict is like the biggest.
Yeah. Because if you fail on your own, you don't have resentment towards somebody else, or you don't have long lasting issues potentially with somebody else. It's just
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's just important if you're going to get into a partnership to define your roles, define what each person's going to do, and then just talk about what that exit looks like. Because that's the other problem with partnerships is sometimes you get into it and you're like, wait, I thought you were the brains and I was going to be the brawn. What do you mean you want me to do this? And so you just define what each of you are going to do. And like anything else, especially when you're looking for mentors or people to lift you up, is get people that maybe have strengths in areas that you don't, and that can get you to see and expound your vision of what's truly capable. That's what I did with a wife, right? She saw a lot more in me than what I saw in myself, and she's been the one that's said, okay, we can go achieve these things. So many times when I've doubted myself, she's been there to say, no, keep it going.
Yeah.
Your wife probably had good elementary school teachers.
She did. She was probably influenced heavily by that second grade teacher.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, hey, Sean, this has been great. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great story. Very engaging. Loved it.
Yeah.
Been a lot of fun.
If you want to learn more about Sean, and anyway, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really great. Appreciate your story. Appreciate all the experience and the wisdom and the stories. Always can learn from those. If you want to learn about how do we learn more about Club Swan? How do we get a hold of you, Sean? What do our listeners do?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Sean Kress, clubswan.com.
SHAWN.
SEAN.
SEANKRESS.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
No
perfect.
T on the end. Unfortunately, my dad's not the heir to the toothpaste fortune or
Crest.
anything like that. Yeah. That'd be nice.
KRESS,
Yeah.
not CREST.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's too bad. Okay, so check them out on LinkedIn. Club Swan, is there a website?
Clubsong.com.
Clubswan.com.
Clubswan.com.
Perfect. Check them out. Thanks for joining. Let's hit the outro.